You're on the Six Screens Telenetwork, earning the reputation of giving all the right ingredients, uninhibited, and exposing the hard, cold facts about the Watchtower Society. And now, Disney.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome in. Welcome in. We're glad you could spend some time with us tonight here on the Six Screens. Well, we got your favorite apostate. Well, she's been doing these programs now for a number of years, and with us, she's been on for about a year and a half, and we really appreciate that. But we know Barbara Anderson has done so much to expose the Watchtower. Back in 2002, we know she was on the Dateline program, and she really, really exposed them in such a way that no one has ever done before. So she is doing a great job letting people know what the Watchtower is hiding behind. Now, she has a program on our network. It's called Watchtower Insider. Barbara Anderson tells all. And she has a friend tonight that she wants to introduce to you. So let's bring Barbara on right now. And let me get over here to the stage. Hello, Barbara.
Howdy, Rick. Good to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you. My goodness, everyone missed you. I've been getting people saying, did Barbara have a... In fact, one person thought that we might have had an argument of some type. They said, did Barbara get upset with you, Rick? I said, not that I know.
Oh, yeah, I'm always upset with you, Rick.
Someone said that. I'm so glad, Barb, you're back with us, and everyone's glad too as well listening in. Now, what I wanted you to do now, introduce that man behind you, next to you.
Yeah, a very good friend. I've known him for a number of years. His name is, okay, wait till you have this, Rick. His Dr. Rob Green, PSD. How about that?
I think it's great. I think it's great. I've been waiting to hear from Rob. I talked to him a little bit today, but I know he has a lot to share with us. It's going to be really
This is a former witness.
Yeah, former Jehovah's Witness. He knows too where the bones are buried. He's done a lot of studying on them. But him and I talked a little bit today, and he has a plan. He has some thoughts on how you can kind of erase Watchtower from your mind. And I'm looking forward to getting a little glimpse of that. I'm sure he'll share some of that with us. But I'm going to cut out of here and let you and Rob do the program. But I'm here, Bob, if you need me. Thank you, Rob, for coming on.
Okay. All right. Now let's see. There we go. We made it, Rob. We made it. We're now on Six Screens after all this time. Howdy, everybody. Thank you for missing me. I'm reading the comments over there on the side. And I missed you all too. Of course, I had a great tragedy in my life, and most of you know that my wonderful husband of 65 years has died. And it was a wonderful life. I keep going. I have many, many, many fabulous memories. I'm going to try to tell you all in the coming years, many of the experiences that we had. And it is hard to put it in words what happened with the death of Joe. You saw him last year read his resignation letter. He was ill then. So, but he was 90 years old. He had a long life. And as I tell everybody, I have to have humor in this because he had a long life. You know why? Because he had a wonderful wife. How about that? Actually, he was responsible for being a wonderful husband. And we did have great years together. And I have marvelous, marvelous friends who have written me and friends from all over the world that we have met in the many, many years that we have been when we were active witnesses and since we left the organization. Now, Rob happens to be a friend of ours since about 2018, right, Rob?
Yep.
Yes. And he has a lot to say. He has a success story, and he has a sad story first, but he has a success story as he continues to talk about or answer the questions that I ask him. I would like to talk about truth, and this is just something to think about while you're listening to what Rob has to say and listening to this. And this is a statement that was made. I found it on the internet some years ago, and I thought it was excellent. I sent it around to some people who thought it was so interesting. And the statement was made by a man. His name was Josh Richardson, and he is a blogger, a healer, a constant pursuer of the natural state of human consciousness. All right. I don't know Josh, but I do appreciate his words. He said, everybody has their own version of the truth, and your version is no more correct than theirs. Your version of the truth is dictated by your path and learning experience, which is completely defined by your state. That is why we are so unique and capable of creating our own realities. We are what we think and feel. It is much wiser to agree to disagree than impose your truth on another person whose learning experience may be the polar opposite of your own. After all, your truth is only your truth and not anyone else. Think of every person as having their own earth, and you're just another player in the game. They're making the rules, not you, and they may possibly see and feel what you do one day. But until that day comes, be kind, respectful, and share your knowledge in the most courteous way possible. The goal is to open doors, not close them. We can all agree with that. There was one more statement he made, and I want to read it. We love to fight. It's not worth it, because the state of being right is all subjective, with so many layers and perspectives of truth. Whenever you feel the urgent need to jump into a fight over who is right and who is wrong, ask yourself this question: would I rather be right, or would I rather be kind? And that was written, that last statement. It's a little paragraph that I'm reading that was attached to Josh's words, and that is by a man by the name of Wayne Dyer. So, truth is subjective. We all agreed. My understanding and my life, I wasn't born as a JW. I was actually born and right away baptized as a Catholic. So my young life was governed by the religion of my parents and by my parents' belief system in life. So I converted to the witnesses, as many of you know, when I was baptized when I was 14. Now, there are all sorts of experiences that we have in life that make us who we are. Rob has many, many experiences, and I ran one by him today. I received an email from a fella who said that the elders won't let him go out in field service, and he loves the field service and he wants to do it. And so he asked. He actually ran by me. I don't know why he chose me. He sounds like he.
Well, it looks like Barbara froze up here a little bit, but we'll give her a second to come back. Just stay with us. Barbara, evidently, hold on 1 second. We'll see what the issue is. Whether her internet went down or not, I'm not sure. but let's try to work on that. Just give us a second. Hello, Barbara. Well, she's not. I'm not sure what happened. We lost the. We do have her there on there, but we'll get her back here in a second. Hello, Barbara. Can you hear me? Boy, I have no idea what went on with that. It's just frozen there a second. Let's give it a second. Maybe your internet will come back on again. But anyways, let's see. Well, she went on. We'll get her back on here in a second. Let's see what happens. I'll give her a call and see what happened. We'll get her back on. Just a little technical issue here at this point, but we'll get her back on with us and we'll get things moving once again. This can happen when you're doing live programs, of course. But let's call Barbara and see if we can get her back on with us. Just give us a minute or two and we'll get Barbara. Hello, Barbara? Yeah, for some. Yeah. Was there a storm or something? She says she's not. All right, well, wait. All right, let's see. Okay, I think you're coming back in now. Yeah, there you are. So I'll bring you on. Yeah, I'll add you to the stage. All right, I believe you're back on with us, Barb and Rob. Yep.
Wonder.
Yeah, you're back on. Yeah, that happens once in a while in live programming. You can lose internet connection.
This man, he's been a witness for over 60 years, and he wants to go out and field service, and they won't let him. Apparently, he has some mental issues. So when he went on this chat GPT, it was suggested to him as a result of the exclusion, he was told to write the organization that he would sue him, and this would be a, if I have this right, it's a I say this is a religious issue, and the courts wouldn't address it, but the chat got GPT, that's whatever it is. It said that he could sue them because the ministry is a religious doctrine, and he couldn't sue them because it was a religious doctrine. And so the discussion, it goes back and forth here, whether you can sue the society or not over a religious doctrine. Well, you can't. And so I was talking to my friend sitting right next to me, Rob, after I responded, and I said, the house-to-house work is considered by the Watchtower organization as part of their religious belief, that it's a scriptural command for Christians, and they would argue that they construe it as doctrine and not a bylaw. Because this man was counseled, he said, well, you can go to the courts and say it's a bylaw. It's not a bylaw. And because the courts won't get involved in a religious doctrine. And so I said, they could argue that Jehovah's Witnesses leaders could argue that the religious appointed leaders have a right to see that a believer doesn't misinterpret this field ministry doctrine and use it for the wrong purposes. So his elders don't want this man going out in service, apparently, because he has mental issues. But they can do that legally. And the courts can't get involved because this is a doctrine of Jehovah's Witnesses about the field ministry. We had an article in the When I Was a Witness that was written by Colin Quackenbush at headquarters. The accusation was being made that Jehovah's Witnesses were the false prophet, and by ministers in California, and the witnesses had to deal with this going door to door. But the field ministry is is something that's required. So it was Colin Quackenbush that wrote an article about the good news of the kingdom being preached. And he was saying that this is a command in the Bible. And so it is a religious issue, and the courts can get involved if the Watchtower tries to say you can't get involved in house-to-house work because you give the wrong impression. Now, why am I bringing this up? Well, see how varied the problems are in this organization, what they have to deal with. Colin said in his article per se that the preaching of the kingdom is a command in the Bible. So the courts can't get involved. Now, there's so many things that the courts can't get involved when we go to them, when we try to seek justice because the Watchtower is unfair. So how about shunning? How about the issues of disfellowshipping? How about blood transfusion? We all know that there have been changes and more changes on these different issues. Courts can only get involved in secular issues. So, Rob, do you have something to say on this?
Yeah, there's a couple things that I'd like to advise the people who are looking for similar things like that. And that would be, first of all, going to an AI chatbot would probably be not the best source of information for legal matters like this. Instead of referring to a chatbot, he should probably get an attorney. Second of all, he is a witness and wants to sue the organization that he's in. That is not going to go over very well. It's going to find him being disfellowshipped pretty quick. So his thought process is wanting to reform or change Watchtower while still being part of the organization. And I just don't think that that's going to be effective. If anything, it's only going to get him more ostracized in the congregation and blacklisted in the congregation. But then legally, I don't even think it may get to a judge if he files the paperwork and hires an attorney. But I'm not too sure any judge would ever take this case on. It just doesn't seem very plausible.
Yes, there are so many issues that we have had to address over the years on topics of what is legal and what is not legal with the Watchtower. I have a bit of knowledge on this because of being at the Watchtower and doing a lot of research on legal matters. So, but Rob now, he is, I'd say you're right now you're a professional student, aren't you?
Pretty much.
Yeah. And so he has degrees. I run by him questions that I received that I'm not sure of. And well, when I'm sure of, I don't run them by him. But he has a vast head full of ideas, and education is his thing. Now, we as Jehovah's Witnesses at one time, we were dissuaded from higher education. Now, Rob has an interesting background, and now his truth is his truth. Keep that in mind, and my truth is mine. But there are certain facts that we go by. Facts are different than truth. So he's going to tell us some facts about his life, and we're going to benefit from learning how to live after the Watchtower. And we don't sue the Watchtower because they misled us on doctrinal matters, but we can certainly make decisions whether we want to support this organization or we want to not do that, or we want to be miserable for the rest of our life because we were witnesses. So, Rob, if you would tell us a bit about your witness background.
Sure. I grew up and was raised one of Jehovah's Witnesses. My parents were both witnesses, and they wanted to raise us into that organization, and they called it the truth. One of the biggest things that I had to deal with the organization growing up was the fact that I was a free thinker, and that was something that they didn't really like. I would always give the extravagant comments in the Watchtower, do research for the. I was one of those guys, yes, and I was working with trying to be able to provide as much information to the congregation as possible, being a resource for them, and the elders did not like it. I was reproved early on in my marriage, publicly reproved, and then the rest of the entire time that I spent with Watchtower, which was over 20 years after that, was nothing but harassment by the elders. It was not easy. And when my son was born, I realized I wanted to be a pioneer. I wanted to be able to attend all the meetings. I wanted to be able to focus on my life on what I believed was a spiritual man's life. So I put all my energy and effort into going out in the field ministry, being at every meeting, making sure I'm doing everything right. But I didn't like working in retail, which is what I was doing. And unfortunately, retail didn't provide much money for my family. It didn't give me a very steady schedule, so I was never sure about meetings and things like that. And I wanted to pioneer, and I figured in order for me to pioneer, the best way to do it would be self-employed. So I looked through different things, avenues of what I wanted to do, and what I came up with is a short course. It was a 2-year course for massage therapy. And I took the accelerated 1-year course program, and then I told the elders about that and got an earful. I was told that because I was going to school, even though I was making all of the meetings and I was going out in field service like I should, they still told me that I was worse than a person without faith because I was going to college.
Well, you had a real problem there, didn't you?
What they did is it made me feel like I wasn't worthy of Jehovah's love anymore. Like I was worse than a worldly person, even though I was doing everything specifically for the benefit of the organization.
Well, approximately what was the year, did you say?
That was 2001 when I started.
And one.
Or 2002, sorry.
Okay. When I was at headquarters and in the writing department, there was 4 years I was in the writing department. And during that time, Lloyd Berry, he was the overseer of writing, but during that time, he was hearing from people in Japan. He had been the branch overseer of Japan for years before he was asked or told to come to Brooklyn. And so he was hearing from students that they couldn't get work even at a McDonald's type of food place because they didn't have college at all, not 1 year. And in other countries, and he also looked into it and found the same problems in England, that employers didn't want to hire people if they didn't, no matter what jobs they did, if they didn't have at least a year college. And so he was responsible for an article that came out way back then. I didn't have time to look up the year, but it was about furthering or advancing yourself in college. And it was, so this is approximately around 93, 94. So in those years, it's kind of cleared the way for people to have an opportunity or take the opportunity to further their education. Well, the elders that spoke to you were really, so many years later, they were really not correct doing that because they headquarters lessened their attack on higher education. And I wrote an article years ago about that. It's on my website, and I point out what Lloyd, how he felt about this. So, of course, he said put the kingdom first, but he didn't condemn this. But there was somebody else that did, and that's been in the past number of years. And he's no longer part of the governing body, Tony Morris. He condemned higher education. He condemned a lot of things. He said apostates would be like at Armageddon. We'd all be like toasted, roasted frankfurters on a grill. There was something strange wrong with that man. Anyway, he's not out in the public eye anymore. Where he is, we don't know. So those elders, they were speaking for themselves. And that's a problem, interfering in people's personal lives in the organization. And there were those in a writing department that really didn't like that, because the ramifications of that always came back to haunt the Watchtower. The letters would come into writing correspondence, and then they had a problem on their hands. So what'd you do? What'd you do next?
Well, I realized my grandmother was an RN, and she always practiced with alternative medicine. So one of the things that I wanted to do is I didn't just want to stick with massage therapy. That was my gateway into become a naturopathic doctor and to follow in the steps of my grandmother. So one of the things that I did is I started my education to become a naturopathic doctor. But because the elders pushed back with that first 1 year of massage therapy, from that point on, I did not tell the elders what I was doing. I just completely left it out of the picture and didn't let them know what I was doing, just to make sure that I wasn't going to get any more ostracism over the fact that I wanted to be able to continue to learn more. And at the same time, I still was able to go out in field service, to go to the meetings and do everything the right way. But they just never knew the difference.
But you pursued higher education, didn't you? I mean,
yes.
Not just the hands-on approach with the massage therapy and the whatever other things you learned at that point. So what was driving you?
The biggest thing that drove me was not the fact that I wanted to be a student, a full-time student. As a matter of fact, when I was in high school, I had no care or concern about education at all. I figured Armageddon would come and that would be the end of it. And I didn't need to have that higher education. But once I started learning and actually figuring out how things really were, the more I wanted to know. The more that I learned, the less that I realized. The more that I realized I know very little. So for me, it was a quest for being able to get as much information as I possibly could to be as useful to other people as I possibly could. And I didn't stop with that. I actually have 3 different doctorates and a lot of other certifications and degrees in a lot of different directions, which has led me to a point where I would have to consider myself a philosopher more than anything else, because I'm not just focused in one particular area of life. I have now branched out into so many different areas of life. My current focus that I'm in school for right now is my master's in education.
I could see how that happened, because once you start learning, you don't want to quit. I did that as a witness. Once I started learning what they had to say, it was exactly what I wanted to hear. And so I continued to learn more and more and more. I thought I had the ability of critical thinking, which doesn't necessarily mean the word critical, that it was bad thinking. But you were hooked. I was hooked on this religion. You were hooked on something outside of this religion, and you pursued it. And of course, I should have, didn't. But the results of back then weren't always so leading to a happier life.
No, and I think for me too, one of the biggest focuses of what I continued to learn was I was under that pursuit of truth. I mean, I was taught my entire life that I need to know, and I've learned the truth about everything through Watchtower. So it was programmed into me to continue to pursue the ideology of truth until eventually I realized, like you brought out in the outset, truth is just an individualized ideology. My truth does not conform to anybody else's truth of the way things are. And there's not enough evidence really for anything to prove anything is to be absolute and perfectly factual. So the best thing that I could come up with is one of the first classes that I took on my second associate's degree courses that I had, which was critical thinking. And when I took critical thinking class, like you mentioned, I learned that I was not a critical thinker, that I was a feeler, that the word critical thinking doesn't apply toward being critical about things that you think about. It more applies toward analyzing the things that you understand, that you believe, and you hear, and thinking about them in a way to see if they hold up with validity standards, standards of, are they worth accepting as part of my life and part of what my belief system is, rather than just believing or having faith or having some sort of experience. How can I make sure what I am going through and experiencing is not just a personal truth, but an actual fact? And that's that pursuit of having actual facts as much as I possibly could continue to push me down the road of trying to gather as much information as possible. And now I'm in the perspective where I'm now pushing to help other people. I've gathered enough information. Now I want to give that information to other people in order to be able to help them not just wake up from indoctrination from Watchtower, but also help the rest of the world. I think, to me, looking at it from the perspective of just the people who leave Watchtower is just so small viewed. If I can look at it from a bigger perspective and see how indoctrination especially has impaired people's lives and hurt people and has hurt our society, then we need to be able to take what we can use in our critical thinking faculties and learn how to unravel indoctrination from all sources, not just from religious sources.
That's very, very important. As you come to realize that over the years, sadly, you lost your family, and as many of us have. So, in fact, most of those who are tuned in tonight have been subjected to shunning, and I certainly have the loss of my son, daughter, and grandchildren, and you've lost the right to be involved in your family's life, your children's life, because of the Watchtowers, and those definitely are doctrines on shunning. So you took vinegar and you made honey out of it, though. So, as many do, and then there are those who are shunned witnesses that are very, very unhappy and can't seem to move ahead. You have good suggestions. Your involvement right now in the education field is worthy of considering, because many of the things that you are trying to implement across the United States with others to improve the education system are sort of ideas that we as former witnesses can do in our lives. Excuse me. Your Pride and Joy is the last project that you were involved with, which is not that long ago. And I read what you wrote, and it was very, very intriguing. So tell us about how, I'm going to just title this self-awareness. So talk a little bit about self-awareness, and then we'll talk about what you're involved with now.
Yeah, one of the biggest things with critical thinking that I've come to realize is that when you start to be able to use critical thinking to analyze your thought processes, the biggest thing that happens if you allow it with an unbiased mind to start taking root is cognitive dissonance. It's the ability for your unconscious mind and your conscious mind to start fighting, and it causes anger. And that's actually a very good thing. When you get angry because things aren't going the way that you believe them to be, that means you're starting to stop and analyze the way that you believe and to analyze it for accurate information. And that is what you would hope for in a situation where you're coming to unwind and unravel. Now, a lot of people have this ideology that anger is a negative feeling or a bad feeling, but it's not. With anger, it can be anything that makes us feel repulsed to something. It doesn't have to be a violent act or a way that we punish somebody else with. It's a feeling that we have. If we want something that we don't like to change, that anger is going to move us to want to change it, which is the reason why a lot of people who become activists. It's because they're angry about a situation, and they take that anger and they positively put it into a way to be able to impact the lives and help people better. But the one biggest thing about critical thinking is that a lot of people don't do it, and they are confused with the ideology of what critical thinking is, rather than being critical about what you are told and believe in, which is what a lot of people believe critical thinking means. Critical thinking means actually analyzing the information that you've received to find out if it's actually worthy of being believed or not. And when you do that and you analyze these deep held personal beliefs, it's going to cause cognitive dissonance. But people usually stop there. They don't take that cognitive dissonance one step further, which would be, what do I do when I experience this cognitive dissonance? And that leads us to self-awareness. When we start challenging our beliefs and searching for answers to the indoctrination that we've been put under by everything, not just church, but let's say family, cultural, religious, even government indoctrination. We take these forms of indoctrination and we start analyzing it, then we start seeing a bigger picture. We start learning how to think for ourselves. And once we are able to start thinking for ourselves, that's called self-awareness. And when I was a witness, I heard that term self-awareness, and I believed that I was self-aware. But the fact of the matter is that according to Tasha Urich's research, the numbers are statistically very low, surprisingly and even shockingly very low on what they should be, what you would imagine them to be. Only 85 to 90%, 85 to 90% of the human population are not self-aware. Let me repeat that in a different way. 10 to 15% are self-aware. The odds are, if you believe you are, you're probably not. And I think in order for us to really be able to, especially after exiting a high control group like Watchtower, to be able to unravel all of the brainwashing that has been done, all the indoctrination that's been done, we need to challenge it. We need to go through that uncomfortable anger process of the cognitive dissonance until we get to the point where we become self-aware, where we can actually start thinking for ourselves rather than just parroting what other people have told us to believe.
Yes, something to really think about, as you said, but we're not accustomed to that. We hear the word self-awareness, but we don't think of it as a help. Maybe in a very dangerous situation, we're aware of ourselves and how we can get out of that situation. But how to evaluate self-awareness when it comes to the religion of Jehovah's Witnesses, because that's what we're talking about now, that we've been in for many years, that ability to come out of it if you want to come out of it without destructive tendencies and great unhappiness. So right now, the project you're involved with is one of many you have done over the years. You recently received what would you call it now? You are now a member of three different honor societies.
Correct.
Yeah, you were appointed, elected, or what?
Yeah, they contacted me. They wanted me to be in the honor society because my grades were really high. I actually graduated with 2 of my doctorates as summa cum laude, and they want people who really put their effort into education to make sure that only the elite people who are educated would get in. So they screened and found me. I didn't go for them.
I see. So some of your writings came to their attention. Now, we are talking about a specific thing, and that is the education, and we're here in the United States. So we're dealing with the education system in the United States. There will be people who are in other countries that will watch this, and that's a bit different for them, their education systems. So, but the specifics that we're going to talk about that we can learn from for our own self-awareness to move ahead, to be happy, and
Well, we've got the issues here with Barbara Anderson's video. As you can see, her internet, for some reason, it was always coming in really good. For some reason, it's not coming in good tonight. Every time she came on prior to this, it was good high definition, but we're not really sure what's going on. We'll give it a few minutes here, see what happens. But I'll contact Barbara now. There's always some snafu. Okay, I guess you're back with us now, Barbara and Rob.
I said that we're working.
No, that's way better now. Hold on one second. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Barbara?
Caused by an unstable internet connection.
Hold on one second.
Yeah.
Full bars.
Hello, Barbara. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. What's going on here is I got a good clear picture now. Did you change some settings on the internet or something? No. All right. Well, you've been coming through in sound. Your video was freezing up, but you came through in sound. We didn't miss any of the conversation, but it was just your video would freeze. But it looks better now. You guys both look really good. The internet connection seemed to be bad, but it seemed to be a lot better now. So go ahead, carry on.
I got to remember where I was. That's the problem when you get my age. So I'm self-aware, but not self-aware enough to know where I was. So pick up there.
Yeah, one of the issues that we were talking about earlier with this was trying to be able to help people who just leave Watchtower because they have no resources. There's nothing out there that's available for people once they get up and pack up and leave. And unfortunately, that's what I ran into. I had no idea how to go and interact with people. I was isolated from worldly people my entire life. And it was frightening because I didn't know how to integrate myself. I was really involved in Watchtower. And I know it may not be everybody's situation, but what I find is when I did other meetups and things like that, the other witnesses who I've talked to hold on to the anger and aggression, the pain that was caused, and they can't move past that. And again, this is where I come down toward trying to educate people on how to not just move beyond the pain and move beyond the problems that Watchtower has caused in their life, but also to build a life for themselves, to be able to figure out how to function healthily in society. And when I'm working on the project right now of reformulating the entire educational system to be able to work in a very similar way that I help with people who are ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. It's one of these a program that helps people from the very beginning build skills, a skill set of what they need in order to be able to function in real life and function in society, so that when you're done with the program, you should feel comfortable enough to be able to go out there and do what needs to be done without worrying about, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to go through my life. And following the same principles that I'm working on my education program as somebody who is a cult survivor, or somebody who's a high control group survivor, or somebody who's leaving a highly abusive relationship, even where they've been controlled their entire life. These type of things are essential because they provide a guide work for people to be able to learn how to function on their own without the need. It provides people with the independence that they need, not just of life, but also of mind, which I think is a key aspect to being able to educate. You need to not just provide information, but you need to provide them with the wisdom to be able to apply that information.
Well, the project you're working on has to do with the teaching kids. And the way that our present system is here in the United States, the most important part of school is your tests and the results of those tests, and you're graded on what the test question is, and you're graded. But that doesn't mean that those tests prepare you for future life or prepare you for anything. In Finland, I found this fascinating, and Rob could tell us a little bit about what they're doing in education in Finland, which you might think, well, why are they talking about the education system? But you'll see the application here for us as former witnesses could be very useful in our struggle to be happy and to be well adjusted. And because there's so many changes even in our world now outside of this religious conversation. And so people are very confused. If they had a better background in understanding their world, they would be healthier as ups and downs that came into their life happened. So you and others are involved in a system of teaching that I think if you really think about it, you'll see it can be helpful. So you're switching to a proficiency evaluation. What would you call guide?
Yeah, a way of progression through a system. It wouldn't be based on how much you are able to accomplish in your test taking skills. It'd be about making sure that you only progress when you're able to accomplish a proficiency level for that particular topic. And that particular topic wouldn't just be about that particular topic. It would be built on and building toward a higher and higher level of education. So everything would work together into one structure rather than having separate classes for all sorts of things. You're using the information like children would use information to learn what is needed, but while they're using this information, they're learning how to use it at the same time, putting application to information versus just presenting information.
Okay, so presenting information, the teacher does a bit, and then they take a test, and so graded on the test, and the test indicates the skills they have, which they don't have anything yet as they grow older. So you're hopeful that there'll be a switching from standardized assessments and shifting to evaluation based on demonstrated proficiency. I wrote that down because it sounds a bit confusing, but I understand it now. So share.
Yeah, with the current system that I'm working on implementing, I'm rewriting the education program from scratch. The way that it's currently based, it's just scattered information. You take a math class, you take a language class, you take a health class, you take a science class, but they're not integrated together into one form of education. And the program that I'm working on integrates everything together to work harmoniously so students can learn in a progressive manner. And they are graded by their personal proficiency. And I've created an entire spreadsheets and ways to be able to do this, where instead of having to replace the system that we have now, we could add in this one simple structure to be able to help students be able to learn how to think and function proficiently versus test taking scores, which I think it's a beautiful way to integrate the holistic model, like you talked about, which Finland is using and New Zealand is using.
Yeah, it's a whole
integrate
model.
that, right? To integrate that into the current United States model rather than replacing it, merge them together, and then once we're able to sustain the system that is more efficient, which is learning how to use the information, then slowly remove the system of grading that we currently have, which is, in my opinion, just grading on your test taking skills.
So the which where does the USA stand on this? Because look, those who are listening have kids, and the kids are in school, and so this is going to hit home. And I thought, you are an example of a witness who had moved ahead, used your brain, and are now helping others. And I thought this would be excellent if people could hear what is being done by those who were so confined in one way of thinking. And you are helping people, everybody who will take advantage of this. Of course, the school kids would have to, but they would be ready then to use their brain when they're finished with school. They have thinking skills to do with a lot of things. They won't just be, I got 100, or I was the top one who graduated from my class. But they know nothing. They don't know how to even socially survive. So in the USA, tell us about how we stand in the USA as far as the performance of the kids in the skill area.
So if you just look sheerly at the grade statistics, you can see a clear failing in the United States in the way that we are doing things. We just don't compare well to other countries who are even using a very similar system. And that to me is shameful, because there's no reason why we can't do this. There's no reason why the system shouldn't actually be free for everybody. And that's what I'm working on, is to be able to provide this system of education for the benefit of everybody completely for free, because not everybody agrees on the same type of education. This, as a holistic program, is something, no matter where you come from, it helps people to be able to learn and gain proficiency versus the test taking scores. And even when you compare it down to individual localities, as school or state or school district, or up to the United States, when you start comparing all the numbers together, it's clear the further away that you get from the holistic models. And especially in the United States, the smaller the groups that you compare them to, the worse the numbers get. And unfortunately, that's just because a lot of times teachers' salaries are based off of the grades that the students are getting. So the government is not putting as much funding into the schools because the grades are not high enough. And then you have this whole entire fallacy of, what's the purpose of education in the first place if you can't do it right? And so that's why I figure if I could provide a source of information for the entire world to be able to have access to, and it won't cost a single penny, you could learn proficiency, and you don't even have to go to public school, which eliminates the whole ideology of pay in the first place.
The way that our witness kids are trained is basically at home by their witness parents. So they really don't have any skills except to go in full-time service. And then when they leave this, they're floating around. Well, a lot of homes are like that. not only witness homes, other religions stop educating their children as to applying themselves to future skills for the future. And so, for instance, if someone had a child was interested in psychological concepts, give us an example on that.
Well, if somebody wanted to go to the branch of psychology, for instance, you would need to have a lot of foundation underneath it. And right now, if you would graduate high school, they're basically starting you off from that foundation at the point where you start college education. It's not discussed. Psychology is usually very rarely, unless it's in high school, discussed. And if it is in high school, it's usually just a class or two, which is a general psychology or general philosophy. Here in Tennessee, there is one high school class required that it is in that it doesn't cover specifically philosophy. It's specifically for psychology, but it's just here are different ideologies of it. It doesn't really give you any information about how it really works. But in the type of educational program that I'd like to produce, you would have all the foundations that you would need in order to pick up psychology right then and there. You don't need to learn the back history of psychology because you've learned a lot of that during the interactions from a very young age with other children or
Yes.
from interactions with other people that are in your community. You learn how to interact with people and how to learn how other people feel, think, and emote, and also too the ability to actually have critical thinking added into a curriculum, which is not found in the United States hardly at all until you get to college level, and still not then very often. So to have all of this ingrained and built in provides a student when they graduate with the necessities of what they would need to be able to function and think in real life.
Yeah, they would have comprehension, and they would, when they would choose the way that they want to go, they would have also real world application.
Exactly.
And I think that's fascinating for our young people to have that. They I'm fascinated with the Finnish program because they put this into practice, and so Finland has the highest of the data on this of the skill area of the children. Finland, their kids have a mastery in so many things for their future, 85%, and the U.S. is 62%. Tennessee is even worse. 58% of our kids lack skills in the skill area or comprehension of what it's like out there in the world and how to make your way in it. So doesn't that fit with us as Jehovah's Witnesses took over our entire lives? So we're like the kids who only get tested to see what we know. But other than that, we were so blindsided. We leave this, and the unhappiness level is tremendous. Even back when I was in Bethel, it was around. I'm trying to think of the year. Remember in the organization, you couldn't seek out a mental health or a psychiatrist, a mental health individual. You weren't allowed to. The attitude of the Watchtower was read the Bible more, go out and service more, and go to all the meetings. That was it. That was going to help you through a mental health something critical, or if you were a child abuse victim. It was an abominable situation that the witnesses found themselves into, and they had issues with mental health. So after a presentation to the governing body of the issue of child abuse that I was involved with in 91 and 92, I think it was 94, the elder school, that was when they permitted witnesses to seek out psychiatrists or a mental health practitioner. And but what was so fascinating to me is that a number of years later, when the witnesses, who was supposed to be the happiest and people alive on this earth with very little problems because they were witnesses, a few years later, someone in at headquarters told me when I was still in that half of the people in the congregations were on antidepressive medication. So the Watchtower allowed them to seek help, and that indicated how many needed help. So they weren't the happiest people, and that's not saying that anything. I mean, the situations in all groups, they're very unhappy people. If we could change the way they learn, because the fact of the matter is that the witnesses go to school too. They went to school. They didn't learn how to think correctly or were self-aware or were prepared for a future. Armageddon did not come, and the witnesses were not prepared for the future. Armageddon didn't rescue them, and they weren't prepared for anything. And that's why they're so angry on the internet. So some of these ideas that your group is coming up with about helping people to be more rounded out, you've made your suggestions. They were excellent. So I won't repeat. So we know that it can be done. You did it. You had many issues because of leaving the witnesses. Yet you were able to pursue and make a happy life for yourself, and you found it in the education field. So we want to help people also. There are hopefully some plans by some ex-witnesses to be able to improve the help that other ex-witnesses can get after they leave the organization. And we'll talk more about that in the future. So we would like to say that self-awareness means cognitive dissonance, as you said, makes us angry. That's a byproduct of cognitive dissonance, the anger. We should regulate our anger, shouldn't we?
Yeah. Use it in a proper way to help rather than hurt.
Give us some more ideas.
There's a lot of things you could do. Like you got into activism. You took what things made you angry, what you saw, and you did things to help other people. We don't have to use that anger in a violent way toward ourselves or toward others. You could use it in a positive way. But not only that, you could use that anger and say, well, maybe I lost out my entire life because I spent my entire life as a witness. But then that anger could cloud the ideology that you still have life left. There's still plenty that you can do and explore in your life and do with your life. It's not over. And neither is the ability for you to be able to live and enjoy life. So not letting the anger be the stopping point. Let the anger be the catapult that you use in order to hurdle yourself to where you want to go instead. Healthily using your anger to be a positive force for yourself and or others.
Yeah, so if you can get some assistance in this matter to be able to adjust yourself to an entire world when you get out of this, just like when you leave school, as your secular school, and you get out of it and you find that you don't know where you belong and you're not trained for anything. It's a disaster, and many young people are in that boat. Well, that's the boat that the ex-witnesses find themselves. They're not trained for anything, especially if they're raised in this. If their parents don't allow them to really learn proficiently a skill for the future, they're in deep trouble. Some people that I have talked to, their parents did allow them to learn some skills. Then they bury themselves after they become a witness. They bury themselves in that skill, and their life is still lopsided. So hopefully in the future, there are going to be some programs and help for former witnesses to, we can talk all about, if they test us. If you test me right today, I'll tell you exactly what the witnesses believe. But that doesn't help me to move forward in a non-witness environment. So this is why we're talking about this. If you want to add to this, please go ahead.
Yeah, you mentioned something really important to me, because when I left, I had to make a decision. When I realized what was happening within Watchtower and realized it was not the truth as they initially said it was, I had to make a decision. Was I going to stay in the organization and fake it? Or was I going to go out and lose my family? And that was a very difficult decision to make. It was a life-changing and life-altering decision, and one that I was not mentally prepared to make, because there was no safety net for me if I left. There was nobody there to help me. And I had to find everything and do everything completely on my own. So I chose freedom of mind over my family. I made that choice. I think personally, me making the choice to choose the ability to be able to think for myself over being told what to do and following traditions was the most important thing that I did in my entire life. It was the first step toward me reclaiming my life, rather than having it continue to be indoctrinated and chained to Watchtower. And that was the first step. But once not everybody took that step. There are people who have left in a lot of different ways. Some people told me it wasn't necessary to dissociate like I did. And that's true. It may not have been necessary for them. That's their truth. But for me, it was mine. Now, what do you do once you realize it's not the truth? What do you do once you realize it's a really horrible organization? And what do you do with your life once you realize that if you leave it, you're going to be stranded on your own? How do you trust other ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, other people? It has been so difficult to find any type of therapist or psychiatrist, psychologist, medical doctor who understands what we had to go through, the amount of psychological torture that children had to go through as Jehovah's Witnesses. The exclusion from parties and groups, the fact that we had to leave the room when kids were celebrating birthdays and Christmas. We didn't have fun. We were an obstacle for kids to make fun of, and they don't understand that type of abuse. But if you can find other witnesses who are helping, their help may not also be the help that's perfect for you. So, finding resources, finding ways to be able to survive amidst the fact of there may not be anything that's perfect for your truth is important. It's essential in order to be able to survive. Otherwise, you're going to continue to waver on what you should do and not progress forward in living your life the way it needs to be lived, which is your way.
Yes, you're involved in a superior program, and if enacted throughout the United States or the rest of the world, it would be wonderful to have children grow with many ideas for the future. Graded, yes, but to understand life and not from, I like the word that you said, maybe it's not your truth or but learn how to think, and maybe in the classes they'll do that. But having you here, to me, it was important because I wanted the listeners to hear of a success story. You did move ahead. They can move ahead if they truly want to. They can be of value to others if they want to. Now, if they are not people who want to be activists or training others or whatever, that's okay. But we want them to be healthy mentally. And if you could do it, if I did it, they can do it too, but they need help to do it. And we are hoping that in the future that there will be help for ex-witnesses. Why should they depend upon a psychiatrist that knows nothing about what it's like to be in a cult? And even though they're trying, I see as of late articles about this, about cults. And the doctors, mental health therapists, psychiatrists, they're all trying to get a handle on this because there's so many people attracted to cults. And then they come out of it like the Universalist Church in Japan. I mean, it was just recently not recognized. You have millions of people. That organization, the origin of it is from South Korea. Now they're trying to get into the United States. Well, they are in the United States, but they're trying to increase their control in the United States. So there again, you get a people who get into this stuff, they come out of it, and they're lost. So you were successful. You thought of a wonderful program or added to a program to help others. Some of the things that you have outlined, even in our discussions, could work with people who were in cults.
And I've worked with other ex-witnesses before and helping them, with
really
as patients and as clients to be able to help with the process of trying to integrate into society in a way that is going to be not just good for them individually, but also that's going to benefit society. There's one thing just integrating in, but then making sure that the person has what they need to be able to be part of society, helping other people by helping themselves at the same time, working as a community versus just the individualistic thinking that I think is just so strong in our current society here today.
Mm-hmm. I've had communication from many women who have lost their children and because they left the organization, and there's so much unhappiness out there. It's just too sad to talk about. One woman just recently said that her husband and she left. Their kids, none of them have left, and she said, "If my husband left, what would become of me?" So, those aren't thoughts that intrude once in a while. You live with it, worrying about the future as you get older. And a woman called me yesterday from Canada. Well, she's alone because her husband died. And she's trying to adapt, and I think doing a very, very good job of it. She watches Six Screens, and that's how she noticed me. And we talk on the phone. She is doing, and she says she has hobbies. She has interests. She's probably near to my age, and I'll be 85 in July. And so she's worked hard to fill her life, help others, and at that age, you're not going to start a career. But there are those. I noticed an article in ARP magazine for the older people, and it says that the biggest problem in the United States is loneliness. Now, isn't that something? So people, they're lonely. The best way to overcome that is to be with other people and try to find something of interest. One woman said when her husband died, she was lost. And so eventually she joined a gardening. She said she'd never planted a thing in her life, but she joined a gardening center. She branched out. She wasn't bitter and hateful because of her circumstances. She said she was saying how happy she was. So what I've noticed on the internet is the bitter ex-witnesses. Have you?
Oh yeah, I've seen that a lot, even in person with the ex-witness community too. There's a lot of people who leave the community and hold on to that anger and don't let go. They feel like they've lost their entire life, their entire family, and hate Watchtower, and that's as far as it gets.
Mm-hmm. We don't have any suggestions right now. I mean, I'm not telling people to go and join a gardening center. We are trying to say, though, what are we trying to say? You're the expert here.
Yeah, there's help. There's hope. That if you feel lost, if you feel like you have nowhere to turn to, no one to be there at your side, you probably don't. And we need to acknowledge that. And that's a sad scenario. But that doesn't mean that scenario has to stay that way. That you can reach out. I've been taking clients and patients, trying to help the best that I can in the situation. There are a lot of other people out there who are genuine and who are great and who are doing the best they can to help people, despite the fact they may not understand completely. There is people out there who can help. You just need to reach out for it. And sometimes that just reaching out is the hardest part.
That's
I
right.
think that first step, but it can be done. I had to do the same thing. Finding the motivation wasn't easy, going through all the depression and anxiety and PTSD that I had to suffer through with Watchtower. But, having to go through it all and having to experience it all, what I did, at least I understand a little bit better, and that that you're not alone.
That's right. And Rob, you did one thing that the Watchtower approved of.
What was that?
You grew a beard.
Yeah, there you go. I was ahead of the curve on that one.
Did that free you?
Oh, no. It just caused more problems in the congregation. The elders were up in arms about it. One said they liked it. They said it looked good, but the rest of them were like, no, this man shouldn't wear a beard. But I didn't see anything wrong with it. There was no scriptural reasons why. They couldn't provide me anything in any book that told me that I couldn't have a beard. So I wore it anyway before I left.
Yeah, well, you waited long. Those who wait long enough, they got their wish, right?
That's right.
They can grow a beard. The thing is that now at an assembly, someone told me, every man has a beard. Is that really what that old man really deep down want to do?
It sounds like it. Especially those who are repressed and not allowed to.
Allowed to.
That's the thing, is like when you hold somebody back from doing something that, inherently is natural, and you tell them that something that's natural is wrong, they're going to want to do it. It's just part of our ingrown nature.
We're talking about the kids being graded in school, and when they graduate, they got high grades, but they're not prepared for life. Well, how about the grading of some of the, and I absolutely know people who went through this. They reached out in the organization and they achieved everything they wanted to in the organization. So they were in the circuit work or when the society called, they were there. By the time they were in their 30s, because they were growing as teenagers, I read their accounts. Growing as teenagers, working towards what the Watchtower said is significant happiness. If you do it, all of this, they do it all, they find themselves in their 30s and they're miserable. They're so unhappy. So you could grade them as excellent, and at headquarters, I bet you in the service department, their file is graded excellent. But at the same time, you have a miserable person because they're so confined from thinking and being themselves, they're miserable. So they're not prepared really for living. And the two experiences I read, both of the men, and they didn't know each other, but it was similar. They married and had children and were happy. So they tried it all, and they got the best of grades, but they were miserable. So what would you say about that scenario?
Yeah, unfortunately, grades don't equate to happiness.
No.
And we could try as hard as we can to learn information, but it's not the amount of information that we learn that's important. It's what information we learn, which is a key factor. But then also, how is this information useful to me? So, if you're learning a field that you're not going to be working in, then what's the point of it? If you're learning something that you really have no enjoyment in, then why are you doing it? There should be some sort of self-validation in this that causes you to be able to enjoy what you're doing. And if you don't enjoy it, then it's time to move on.
Mm-hmm. Some people think they're going to be really, really happy when they leave the witnesses because they're miserable. And then they're not, because they have nothing to gain happiness from. So we just want to be here as encouragement to you. There are people you can call. Don't get involved with bitterness. Don't get involved with people who are not telling the whole truth. That's another thing. There are people on the internet that lie about the Watchtower. Recently, there was an article in a foreign newspaper that there were so many statements in there that were not true. It wasn't the reporter's fault. It was the person that was interviewed who was a bitter ex-witness and lied about the Watchtower. We don't want to lie about the Watchtower. If they have good points, I mentioned, and they did. There were certain teachings that were very good, helpful, basic rules for living. And but if they were causing heartbreak, their doctrines were awful, and we can say it. But don't state things just because it's you had the problem, like when you wanted to about education, and those elders, they certainly depreciated your desire for higher education, when at the time the Watchtower wasn't saying it was negative. It was actually, it wasn't a supreme positive, but they were not punishing or telling the elders in the elder school to discourage people. Because look at now, they're hiring people to run these big nonprofit organizations who have a mammoth educations. Isn't that true?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So the three corporations of the new corporations in Ireland, those people who are running them, who are Jehovah's Witnesses, are highly educated in their field, and you have to go to school to do that. So, there's a big change in the organization. We can be bitter over that change. That, like we talked about the beards. You want a beard all your life, you couldn't have it. Then you get so old, your beard is awful. You missed out, or something like that. Some of the reports, some of the stuff people call me about are really, really funny. If you are the irony of it. And one fellow called and he was saying, now that the sisters can wear slacks to the Kingdom Hall, he said, some of them are wearing such tight slacks, you see everything underneath it. See, extremes, always extremes. Is unhappy people, and they're going the wrong direction, but they're not. Maybe they are happy. I don't know. That situation, I don't know if that makes a woman happy or not, but doesn't fit my lifestyle. But and we don't want to change people either. Variety is the spice of life. So, but we want people to know, don't get involved with those who have, or you think, by exposing Watchtower and saying things about Watchtower that are not true. That exposure, you believe, shows that the Watchtower organization is lying, and that should make you happy. No, it doesn't make you happy. The person that's saying it, are they speaking truth?
That's where critical thinking comes in. Yeah. Is a person who's giving the information a reliable source of information? Should I accept that because they're reliable, or should I not accept it because they're not providing reliable information?
Yes. Yeah. Are we providing reliable information? We're trying. What we know, we pass along. If you want to call me or write me, I invite you to do it. If you want to write me through my website, write me. I opened up this discussion. A man wrote me. He's a JW, and yet he wrote me about the Watchtower trying to keep him from going door to door. Yes, I wrote him back. I said, you can't sue the Watchtower over this, you know. So we try. If I don't have the time now, of course, I just went through trauma, and my husband was very, very ill. I had the flu while he was in the hospital, and only had a few days to live. So it was trauma, and we all go through trauma, but how do you survive it? And that is what we want to help those who at one point we considered brothers and sisters of, and we loved them. We had wonderful, all of us as a whole can say they had wonderful friends at one time in the organization. But the world has changed. The organization has changed also. It isn't what it used to be, the camaraderie we had. You talked to me at one time about the camaraderie you had when you were young in the field service. But we're all adults now. There was tremendous changes everywhere. I mean, in the outside world, the grocery store, there's lots of changes from what we are hearing. Where do we find happiness? Well, ex-witnesses carry the same baggage. That is the truth. So we have a basis for friendship, just like the basis that you have with people I know, and who are there to help out in advice or however that they can. But we don't welcome people who are users. There are people in those organizations that are users, and they are abusers too. So we want you to know we know this. We can't cure it all, but there are sources, and I hope in the future that we can provide sources for you to call, and we can make recommendations for lawyers, mental health practitioners, doctors, programs to help you become a productive adult and fit in some place that you love. So that in a nutshell is what I have to say. Now, your pride and joy is now for you is working to help the kids grow up happy. if you have anything to say to these people, say it now or forever hold your peace.
Yeah, it's not just the kids. Unfortunately, a lot of even adults have been so indoctrinated into the way that they believe things should be. They don't challenge their ideologies, that they get lost. They will go from one cult to another cult. They'll go
Yeah,
from
yeah.
one organization that's going to abuse them, or one relationship that's going to abuse them, to another relationship, because that's all they know is abuse. It's all they've been unfortunately had with and been treated by. And there is hope. There is help. And if you are thinking about hurting yourself or offing yourself or anything like that, please don't. There is a reason to be alive. There is a purpose for life. Reach out for help. And I know a lot of psychologists, psychiatrists, they may not be able to help. They may not understand what you're going through. But if you share your story, if you're able to let it out, pin it, and share it with the world in any way you want to reach out to people who are there, who want to help and don't want to exploit you, which you've got to be very careful with, then reach out to those people. People are there. There are support systems that are in effect, just not ones that are fully functional, but individual support systems. And we are willing to help if you need it. So
That's right. You did the other day when a woman wrote me and she said she was seeing creatures, demons, and all kinds of things like that. And she couldn't get any, what was she called? She couldn't get help. I wish I could figure out another word, but because one person that is a so-called expert thought that that it was really happening to her. So I asked you about it, sent you her email, and you gave me three links to newer understanding of when the brain sees things and believes things, like there are demons in their life. And it had nothing to do with the demons. It had to do with the brain. New studies. And that was very helpful for her. I sent that to her. It didn't take much time on our part, but it was helpful for her to see that there were other studies than the people she was asking, that they believed in demons. The congregation, even when she was going, her mother was an active witness, and mother was being told that her daughter was insane, that her daughter was controlled by the demons, and what the girl didn't go through. But it had nothing really to do with the reality of demons. It had to do with a brain situation. And so sometimes, just contact people, and then we could give you answers that might help you to even stay alive.
right, and I was able to find a support group for her that was actually specifically for people who have gone through the same thing that she's gone through. It was not a support group that said that she was wrong in her ideologies. It was one for people who have suffered from extraterrestrial demon possession, whatever it may be, to help them to be able to come together and talk through it. And sometimes we just need that type of thing where we have other people of like mind that we can talk to, and talk with, versus just throwing information out to somebody.
Yeah.
There needs to be resources for people that matches their particular need.
That's right. And there are programs that help in state programs. So what I was fascinated by was one of the discoveries that seems to, I'm not sure it's an absolute reason, because it's a study, but the fact that this could happen to you, like when you hit your head, and in an automobile accident, just like some people had become schizophrenic, and they see things. They don't call them demons, but they see things. They assume things, and it was because of the brain injury. So there are resources out there, and we try to. I don't want to be. I've got some things that I want to accomplish before I leave, go to my rest. I would like to finish the book I started years and years and years ago, that I have told many about, that I've been working on, but I put it aside because of the activist work. I'd like to go back on that, and it has nothing to do with me or my life. And so I'm not advocating that everybody write me, but I sure know enough people that if you have a need, go to my website, and then I can perhaps point you to somebody that might be able to be of assistance. So if there are any people, hey Rick, if you're not asleep out there, listen, you can ask if people want to ask questions. Maybe we were disconnected a long time ago.
Yeah, maybe.
Oh, look at all the folk.
Hello, Barbara. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, good, good. I wasn't sure that you could hear me. Yeah. What I'm interested in for the both of you, since you both really seem to have an intimate knowledge of the Watchtower, what do you foresee them doing in the very near future in order to keep going, so that they don't throw in the towel? What do you think they need to do?
Go out of business. That's what they need to do. They have had a horrible time converting people. From the people that who are still witnesses that might talk to me, the congregations are half empty. The assemblies are empty. The house-to-house work, they go for half an hour and then they go to a restaurant and they socialize. That's fine. That's fine. But they're not. You can't convert people doing that, and they need converts to survive. It's a money matter too. That's why they started the 3 corporations. That's all about money, and they're they're at the edge of a cliff, and if things keep going the way it is, where the associates, they don't call them members anymore, because then they would have to be responsible, perhaps in court, if a member has a case against them. So they don't call them members. You just associate when you want to, and there's other names they use. Without them, they can't succeed. So new people. Also, the organization's made up of the majority are old, and the kids don't want it overall. Now, there's exceptions to the rule, but they don't quite tell the truth about the membership. One thing I do know, that associates, the number of associates. So they haven't been telling the truth for quite a while. Certain members seem to feel that it's important to keep the associates in the dark. I'm sure there's a lot of things going on for this organization to survive. There's a lot of changes in this world. Who wants to be part of a cult anyway? We were when we were growing by leaps and bounds, when we were part of this organization. It was a time, an era that the 80s and the first half of the 90s. But things changed. Their doctrines changed. And when that happened, and they had to change the doctrines, there are a lot of reasons for that, because things they said didn't happen. So I can only say to you what others are saying to me, that the organization it's getting smaller.
I believe that the organization, the only...
Wait,
the only way that Watchtower is going to be able to survive all that they're going through right now would be for the governing body to come out and admit that they're wrong, to admit that they were wrong about the 1914 doctrine, to admit they're wrong about life in a paradise on earth, to admit that they're wrong about the cover-up of child sex abuse, and to tell the public and to tell the witnesses that they were wrong. And I know it's going to cost them a lot of members. People will become disillusioned. That's fine. But it's better to have disillusioned organization and the people who left over remain, who stick loyal with them, than to be con artists, which is what they are.
Yes.
That's going to be their demise.
Their demise. Yeah, I personally, I think in 10 years you'll rarely ever hear about them. In other countries, I heard from a reporter recently, and I won't mention what country. So he wanted to talk to me, and he said that in his country there is a very active investigation into Jehovah's Witnesses. Since the Norway situation, which is not, has changed a bit since a few months ago. Anyway, there are other countries in that part of Europe that are also looking at Jehovah's Witnesses. It's human rights issues. So what they do when they go to court, they say, "Oh, we don't do that." They lie. Their lawyers are so adept at lying to the courts, because they rephrase the answer is a very cunning answer that the court misunderstands them, because they don't admit anything. They don't admit that they broke the law in this. Some countries, the Watchtower has been breaking laws for years. I won't go into it, but these are laws that were created a long time in a particular country, and the Watchtower has done things to get around that law. We're not talking about stealing or things like that. These are community laws, or laws to do with issues, family issues, and things like that, which are coming to the fore. And so don't be surprised in the future when you see court cases, big court cases, over the Watchtower's use of Jehovah's Witnesses to obey rules, certain rules of the organization, that the country, the human rights issues are coming to the fore, because that country has rules against what the Watchtower had told us to do. And I'm not even going to give you a clue as to what, but I do understand and know this. So I say sit tight and watch what happens, because they have overstepped themselves in other countries, maybe not in the United States to the point that gets them in trouble. But we just had an arrest just a week and a half ago, child abuse, due to the submission that we resulted in the grand jury in Pennsylvania. Now that makes maybe 16 arrested, and more to come.
Hey Bob, this is Rick here at the Six Screen Control Panel. We only got about 5 or 10 minutes left. We have a bunch of people who want to come and speak to you guys. So can we open up the lines here? Can you hear me, Barbara?
Yeah, we're listening.
Go ahead. So let's open. No, in fact, the Pennsylvania thing is going to really strangle them. That's one of the things that could put them out of business. Who wants to speak up? Go ahead. We got 315. 315. You're on with us. Go ahead.
Hello, this is Fran and Joe. Hi, Barbara.
Hi, Fran. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't get your guest's name. What's his name?
Robert Greene.
Hi, Robert. Yeah, this is Joe and Fran Garino. Thank you for all the work that you're doing, and it is so important. Really quick, Joe and I when we first left 3 years ago, we went to a therapist, and it was very helpful. And he was aware of some Jehovah's Witnesses. Matter of fact, someone who did take their life. He's since retired, and just Thursday, Joe and I went again, and this time there was a young woman, very nice, very compassionate. She had no idea about the witnesses, so we educated her on what is going on. So it's a twofold. You know, we need to go to therapy just to sort out everything, but we also need to go and relate what it's like leaving the Watchtower, the shunning, the high rates of depression, the suicide. And so that's what we're recommending friends to do. Matter of fact, this coming Wednesday, we're having a program, Talk to a Therapist. And so far we have two, what do they call them? My mind, two guests that are coming on, Gary Alt and Malia Thompson. And they're not psychiatrists, but they're coaches. They're life coaches is the word I was looking for. So anyway, anyone that would like to come on there and share their experiences with a therapist, we'd appreciate that.
Oh.
Well, it's good to know that you're working on this. And I know you two are very active in trying to help others, and it's much, much appreciated. So,
oh, thank you, and you too, Barbara. You too.
Well, it takes a village, you know. You know that expression. It takes a village. So, all
That's
of us,
right.
and we have the village.
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
yes,
we do have it. We just need to get it out there. We got information out there.
That's right, exactly. Yep. Well, thank you. We'll let someone else come on. Thank you, Barbara. Thank you, Robert.
Carl St. John wanted to know, is that a cuckoo?
Yeah, we got a cuckoo. We're working on one right now.
Sometimes that's what I feel like.
That's what we feel like too.
Yeah.
We work on them all the time.
I say, yeah. Well, Bonnie,
love you, Barbara. Love you.
Thank you. Love you too. I follow what you do. I just don't, especially the past year, which was very, you know, it was difficult for us, but I wasn't that great at answering a lot of people, but I loved hearing from them. And so I am grateful for that.
Wow.
Somebody said the whole of Watchtower is cuckoo. I'm reading the comments on the side.
Yeah. Oh, dear. Well, thank you. Love you.
You're welcome.
Well, Barbara and Rob, this is Rick here, the control panel. And I'll come on, say hello to you. And I got a thought.
Speaking of cuckoo, we're going to leave soon.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to say
get myself
goodnight.
back on. So I wanted to say that, well, tonight's a very big night for the witnesses, as we all know. It's their memorial. And boy, they are going to, tonight's their memorial. And they are going to wit's end trying to get people to come this year. No. Barbara, I have been getting people writing me, people who have been gone for 20 years. The elders are chasing them down. People who have left the organization completely. They have got an ongoing effort to get all these people to go to the memorial tonight. Now, I'm going to be watching the figures. The figures are going to really speak volumes. But we know that, go ahead and get that.
You can't believe their figures. I have to say that because
we can't. Now last year they got over 20 million, so they got to show a big number this year. So they are inviting everybody. They're sending invitations. People, as a matter of fact, I'll tell you what, it's even being expressed and being let known that if you don't come to the memorial, you could die. I mean, can you imagine that? I mean, yeah. So anyways, well, Rob, it was good to have you on here with us tonight.
Thank you. Good to be here tonight.
Yeah, no, it's good to have you there with Barbara, and it was very interesting what you're doing. We see that you became successful when you left the Watchtower. And, that's a good thing. And I like people to hear that because there's so many people that, sad to say, the Watchtower has really destroyed their life. They could never get enough gumption, enough kick, so to speak, to really move on and do well. And there's so many witnesses, ex witnesses that are listening here tonight. The Watchtower has really hurt them. But for you to come on and explain to us how you're working with the education systems and trying to make that better, well, that is something to be admirable. To see witnesses go out and do good with their life and make things a lot better. So thank you, Rob, for sharing that with us.
If people are happy with the way their life turned out because of their educational system, they wouldn't be attracted to cults. It's
Well,
it's
you're absolutely right. If we all know that, not that I've met some pretty smart Jehovah's Witnesses, Barbara, as you have. I've met some really smart ones. It costs us a lot that they weren't, as the saying goes, the brightest penny in the cash register. But there were many that were very smart and astute. So I don't really think, and I think Rob would agree with me, I don't know if it's really based on intelligence. Even intelligent people can get scammed.
well, it's based upon need. If they're needy in a direction that the witnesses can fill, that's why so many stay in now. Older people stay in because they're very needy. It fills a need. It doesn't matter education, because I was in a congregation, Joe and I, for years. We had a doctor and his wife. She was a force before she became a witness in the school education in Maryland, and he was a very successful doctor. They got involved with the witnesses. They were needy. The witnesses filled a need. So that's all I can say. I'm not a superior thinking on the matter, but I had a need that the witnesses filled, and that was a need that was going to be a fair world to live in one day, because there was so much unfairness and unhappiness. So,
Well, let's say then that's really important to come to an organization when you're in need. I mean, that's what people do. They seek out something that's going to make comfort or bring comfort to them, and
it
that's what.
sounds good. It
Yeah, it
sounds
sounds good.
wonderful.
It's
So
packaged good. The Watchtower is packaged
it
real good, Barbara.
did at one time. It doesn't
Yes.
anymore.
Well, we're gonna kind of move on. I hate to do it, Donna.
Okay,
I hate to end the program, but we do have some guests coming on at 8 o'clock, so I
great.
will have to let the program go here. But I want to thank you, Barbara, for coming in, and Rob coming on,
Thank
and
you for asking.
we'll be hearing more from both of you, and I'll be in touch about the convention. So
Okay.
we'll talk a little bit about that the next week or so. But I appreciate your presence here tonight, both of you, and I know it was at the last minute, so I do appreciate that. Thank you, Rob, and thank you, Barbara. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Take care. Bye, everybody.
Well, we're going to end the program here. We're going to be going to JW. Well, who was that? Okay, good. Well, that's good. We get a lot of people listening on the telephone line here, Barb. So someone just said bye to you. I wish we could have brought more on. I wish we had more time, but boy, time goes by fast. Anyways, we're going to be moving on to JW World News. We are going to be talking about the memorial. We're going to be talking about one of the latest Watchtower study articles. We're also going to be having two guests come on tonight. We have a man who wrote a book. In fact, two authors coming on tonight. We have the author of The Hour of Darkness. That would be Derek Barefoot. He talks all about subliminal imagery in the Watchtower. And we also have Fritz Springmeyer coming on as well. So stay tuned for JW World News. And
It should,
we'll have
it should prove to be interesting.
it's going to be good. It's going to be a good program.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. In fact, Fritz Springmeyer wrote a book called The Bloodlines of the Illuminati. And he, of course, claims that Watchtower is in the Illuminati. And it's been all arranged and planned for them to come on the scene and work with the powers to be in the world. So let's Oh, Fritz will be on tonight. He'll talk all about it. Thanks again, Barbara Robb. And
You're welcome.
thank you for all coming in and those that have been commenting in the chat rooms here on Facebook and on YouTube. And of course, we appreciate those coming in on our radio network. So thank you, and we'll see you in the next program. End it here.
Bye-bye.
Yep, bye bye.